Hello and welcome to Telltale Books. I would like to talk in this video about an author I've never mentioned on our channel before. It happens to be Stableford's birthday on the date that I am posting this and making it live on YouTube. So this is Happy Birthday Brian M. Stableford, who is still living. Brian Stableford was born on July 25th in 1948, and he is a British author, of course, one of my favorites. But I have to admit, I have never read Stableford's work until now. I've taken the opportunity of his birthday to correct that overlook in my reading of Wa. And I went back, I actually read his first two stories, but I want to talk about his first story, which is titled Beyond Time's Aegis. This is a novelette that was published in Science Fantasy magazine in November of 1965. And it was actually written with someone named Craig A. McIntosh, who I really don't know anything about, couldn't find much about. And it was published under the pseudonym of Brian Craig. So the story, you have what is called the Firefly, pursuing a man who walks through time. This story is very surreal, very strange, kind of difficult to really pin down just what it's about. And it feels more like a fable or a fantasy than a science fiction story. 1965 in Science Fantasy magazine kind of places Stableford in with the new wave writers of the 1960s, and so not surprising to find something kind of experimental, although I don't think Brian Stableford really normally is lumped with authors like Christopher Priest or M. John Harrison. Most of his work has been a little more space opera than the other writers. But this story feels very new wave to me. To the point where that's its weakness. It seems kind of obscure, which is a nice way of saying I kind of didn't get it. And I felt like it was just trying to be too artsy, too experimental, instead of just being a little more straightforward. The story didn't wow me, but at the same time it intrigued me. And the story was expanded at some time. I couldn't find out exactly when it was expanded into a novel, but the novel wasn't published until after 2000. From the page I was reading about that, it was clear that it was written sometime long before it was actually published. So he might have expanded it into a novel way back in 1965. I don't know, but it's got me intrigued, and I want to read that novel. Even though I didn't really care for the novelette, I want to read that novel and see if maybe the novel comes off stronger having been rewritten, if maybe he didn't clean up some of the issues that I'm running into as a reader, or maybe I'm just dumb, I don't know. But that was Beyond Time's Aegis. I really never knew how to pronounce that word. I'm learning today. I had to look it up online. And the second story was The Man Who Came Back, which is just a short story. It was published in October of 1966, so like a year later, in SF Impulse over in England. And in that one you have a man meets alien slugs And he's the only one to see these alien slugs, and apparently he's been turned into one of them. And it has a twist ending. It's an okay story. So Stableford doesn't seem to have had a really super strong start out here, but I'm going to try some others. I have some of his later. I have one of his later novels in hardcover that I want to read, and that one's one of his best known works, The Halcyon Drift. And I do want to read that and see how different that is there. So in recent years, Brian Stableford has been doing lots of translating, mostly of fantasy and horror works from the late 1800s, early 1900s, a period in literature that is generally described as decadent. You have Baudelaire's Le Fleur de Mal coming from that time period, and there's a lot of other works that aren't so well known and haven't been reprinted that much, that come from this time period. Most of them are in French. Apparently Stableford speaks fluid French and has been translating lots and lots and lots of these for, I think, more than 10 years now. And they are all available. I just ordered one of his most recent. It's an anthology of stories from that time period. He's done a number of these, so it's all different authors. And sounded interesting, so I ordered that. I've got that on the way in the mail. And so anyway, happy birthday to Brian Stableford. He is, even if I wasn't impressed by his first two stories, he is a treasure in the science fiction field, and one of the last of the older science fiction authors still hanging around. So give his work a try, and love to hear what you think. Leave comments and like us and subscribe to us, and come on back for more. I'm not going to do a deep dive into everything he's written, mainly because at this time I have to admit I'm kind of on the fence with whether or not I really love his work. So I'm not going to go so far as to try and read everything with Stableford. So I will see you next time.